Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Olson with the National Tile Contractors Association, and thank you for attending today and taking time out of your busy schedule. Today's webinar, Pools, Spas, and Outdoor Living Upgrades, is sponsored and presented by Laticrete International. Before I introduce today's speaker, I need to remind you that during the webinar, you will be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer to type in your questions. It's important that we answer your questions, so please do that. We'll answer those questions at the end of this presentation. If the audio on your computer is poor, call the number on the invite and you'll be able to listen on your phone. All of our webinars are available to watch anytime on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after the webinars are presented. We usually have them up within about 72 hours after this has been presented. Please subscribe and you'll be notified of all upcoming videos, technical webinars, those kind of things, giving you easier access to watch at your convenience. All right, today's speaker, Marcel Schoen, has been with Laticrete for 5 years and is the Technical Services Supervisor for Special Projects. He's been a professional in the commercial flooring industry for over 15 years as an owner, project manager, estimator, sales rep, technical service rep, and installer. His in-the-field experience combined with the industry certifications have made Marcel a resource to the industry on virtually every aspect of the commercial flooring market. Welcome, Marcel. We're excited to have you today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to get going, guys. So thank you very much for attending. Like Jim said, I come from the commercial world. So if you ever have questions, you name it, I've been there, that big bid, public bid type stuff. That's where I've cut my teeth in this industry. So I'm very, very honored to be able to present to you guys today. All right, so I'm going to shut my camera off because I tend to lean in when I read. So, and I will get going there. All right, so today we're going to be going over pool, spas, and outdoor living upgrades. All right. Those trends that we're seeing definitely in that residential world and even crossing over into the commercial world. And I apologize. My computer's catching up. So here we go. All right. So I do want to start, this is protected by copyright laws. So basically any reproduction, distribution, display, or use of this without my written permission is prohibited. All right. So let's get into it. Learning objectives, all right? So naturally, we're going to look at the pools and spas. Also, the outdoor living upgrades, which are becoming increasingly popular, right? Exterior kitchens, even decks, patios, outdoor lounging is very popular. And then most importantly, in my opinion, in this category is installation solutions and tips, right? These installs are going to be, introduced to stresses that an inside application will not have. So we definitely have to pay attention, make sure that we're doing the right best practices. Very special attention to detail, not only in the install methods, but actually the curing, and you name it. So the first one we're going to start with is the pools, spas, and even the decks, right? So it's no secret that COVID has definitely made people stay home more. Maybe in a good way, even want to stay home more, get back in touch with their family. So it's not uncommon for, the residential person to not only improve the inside of their house, but drastically look to improve the outside living space as well, right? Be able to stay more communal, have friends over, and entertain that way. So this is a beautiful example of that. You can see we have a spa, a pool, a deck, a lounge area, and a fireplace all in one. And you can see just by this simple picture, the very, the vast amount of options that we have in that tile world. We have glass tile in the pool, we have stone tile in the deck. We might even have a, more man-made tile around that fireplace, which is a guess. But again, the design elements are limitless, right? Another good example here, I call these micro pools, right? We're seeing these pop up a lot more. Before it was, a lot of pools were a standard size. We could all remember when we were kids and go swimming. Now we're getting a lot more design elements just in the size of the pool, right? There's people that are getting even pools in their backyard that are maybe a little bit bigger than a hot tub. But here's a good example of that. Maybe it just fits the 2 or 3 people that live in the household. They have a nice, comfortable space to go swimming and also a spa connected to it. And again, here you can see the very, vast options that we have for the tile and stone industry. Another great example is that, mixed space, lounging, kitchen, pool, all together. I wish that either of these were my house. They are not. But, you know, with good graces someday, maybe that'll happen. But again, just showing you the options that are out there, right? We have a bar submerged in a pool. So you don't always have to go to Mexico anymore to live like this. People are actually getting these in their home. And then, you know, again, that TV outside is a very popular element now. You'll even see a lot of those more the projector type screens. So just environments with tile and stone around the living space. And then here's a great example of kind of all of it together, right? You have the pool, the deck over, it looks like an occupied or elevated space, which also seamlessly goes into the inside of the space. So again, beautiful living areas, recreation and lounging. But as you can imagine, when you have this many finishes, this many design elements, all of that stuff going together, it's crucial that we follow the right industry standards and practices, right? Because the beauty is amazing, but the potential for problems is also unlimited as well, all right? So let's start by the obvious one that could, you know, put stresses on these types of installs. The water itself, okay? Naturally, we can all, I'll go back to that slide, you know, many qualified installers out there could install this type of install, make it look great, looks beautiful when you put it in. You haven't filled it with water yet, but then you put the water in, okay? Water is gonna weigh about 8.34 pounds per gallon. All right, so you figure if you have a pool size, let's say 15 by 30 by only 5 foot deep, you're looking at over 140,000 pounds of water added to that install. So you can imagine what stress that's going to actually put on the pool install itself and the tile, okay? We have a lot of those, and we seem to see it in those smaller pools where they put them in, everything looks beautiful, and again, you fill it up, and then the calls start coming into the tech service department. Hey, your thin set's failing, your grout's failing. Well, guess what? It's not the product that's failing, right? It's actually that the industry practices and best standards just weren't followed. So you see a pool here, all right? You could probably guess in your head where you think they should be. If you want to do that now, take a guess where you think there should be expansion joints. Certainly you're going to want to do it around any of those scuppers or anything like that, the penetrations. But this is a good illustration, right? You're looking at around every 8 to 10 feet or so is not uncommon in a pool. So it's just very important to pay attention to that, right? So if the designer isn't on the job or something like that, it's up to you as the installer to make the homeowner, the end user aware of this as well. And you have to follow those practices. The last thing you want is this happening, right? You don't want to put the whole thing in, have it look beautiful, and then this starts happening, who knows, a month, week, days, even years after. You do have to allow for that wait. And not only that, the expansion and contraction, you know, especially depending on the climate you come from. So you have the freeze thaw, you know, some areas, I know we're in New England right now, we were 50 or below 50 last week, and we're above 90 this week. So you got to take all those things into consideration. Again, the last thing, you know, the most ineffective install is when you have to go back and redo. So some other design considerations with pools, right? The expansion joints is obviously a big one. Just going to go over some other popular trends, popular materials that we see in these spaces, and things that we should think about in those as well, right? Waterline tile, that's definitely a popular element in pools, right? It's an easy and effective way to, you know, give yourself a design element, but also makes it easier to maintain around that scum line, you know? So it's just an easy to clean material, but you have to make sure that you're using the correct adhesive on these, okay? A lot of times these are done in fiberglass pools. Make sure you're gonna use an epoxy adhesive there. A big problem that we see also in the industry is over a concrete. Maybe it's an afterthought, or they redo the pool, or they're putting a new plaster on, and they just want to do that line. A big problem we see is a lot of people will put like a membrane type waterproofing behind that, only at the pool tile line. What that's actually doing is counterproductive, right? Now water is able to potentially get behind that install, build up behind the waterproofing, and then actually push it off. So just look at the standards, think about the design elements, and just make sure that you're doing the right thing for that install. And as we just saw, glass tile, very popular in pools, whether it's a water line, you name it, inside the pool. A big problem that we see is the mesh or resin back tile or stones in these type of applications. You know, that submerge application, spas, you name it. Beware of the water soluble backings, okay? We're gonna get into this a little more, but make sure that the material can actually handle the environment it's going in. A lot of these meshes are water solubles, meaning so when you put them in the water, they're gonna start to delaminate. Those tiles are gonna start to pop off. So again, it's not a problem of the setting material, it's actually that material wasn't able to even go in water in the first place. So you're going to want to make sure that those are able to handle the environment. Consider the safety consideration as well, right? There is measurable slip resistant code criteria, okay? So the Uniform Swimming Pool Spa and Hot Tub Code. It's going to be published by the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials, IATMO, more commonly known. But make sure you're meeting that 0.42 DCOF, right? You're going to want to protect the public health. You don't want to have a beautiful tile put in a space that just isn't right for the space. You know, let me go back to that. Another thing too, that I forgot another slide. When you're using these insulation materials in pools, very important to know the curing time on these as well, right? So if you look at a material and the bag says that it has, you know, cures in 24 hours or grout in 24 hours, in a submerged location, you know, spas, fountains, even, you name it, when it's going to be submerged, you actually have to let that go longer. So read the material, follow the industry standards. Usually good practice, you're looking at cement products, let those cure for a minimum of like 14 days before you submerge them. And then an epoxy product, you're looking at about 10 days, okay? So don't forget that. You know, a lot of these homeowners, they want to get in this pool, they're entertaining next weekend, we got to get it done. Don't let them push the issue, because again, the last thing you want is to have a failure. Other design trends that we're seeing, all right? So the pools and spas are an obvious one. Everyone, you know, sees them, wants to install them. It's a big money item. Certainly a beautiful feature, but there's a lot of other exterior trends that are coming outside of the pool. Naturally, you know, we have the Masonry Veneer systems. These have been around for years, definitely getting more popular. So, you know, you can see here, you're able to, you know, veneer the front of a home, even accent veneers, maybe on one little section of the home. So that's certainly been around. Again, I just put that in there. We're going to get into more of the trendy stuff, the outdoor living environments, but again, just going back to the installation techniques, make sure you know what you're getting into. If you show up and you're asked to install tile over a rigid foam insulation, for example, don't just adhere right to it. Make sure you're following best practices. That's really the only reason I point that out. And then the other thing too on those types of installs, okay, make sure that you're not burying that stone or anything into the ground or right to the ground. Follow those standards as well. Typically, you're going to be wanting to put that about 2 inches minimum above a, you know, hard paving or a concrete. And if you're going above a soft grade, grass, something like that, where there's even more excessive moisture coming out, you're going to want about 4 inches. And then the big one here is the bottom of this detail, right? You want to slope that grade. You want to have it going away from the building. You don't want to rely on the caulk joint or soft joint at that area to do that for you. All right, so outdoor living trends. You know, again, aside from the pool, that seamless outdoor-indoor transition is becoming increasingly popular, especially depending on the climates that you live in, right? That biophilic design, it's a lot of people in the industry are calling it, which basically increases connectivity to nature through architecture, right? So you're seeing places where you're able to shut that door, make it an inside space, or open it, and then it feels like one big room that just goes up to the outside. What we're seeing here is a lot of times they're using the same flooring, fabrics, and furniture in both, okay? So you can see here's a great example. This walks right into the inside of the space with the same flooring involved, okay? So beautiful seamless design. Again, just make sure you're following all the right stuff. You want that pitched away from the building, not going back in. So do your due diligence if you get projects like this to not only, you know, make sure that the substrate's ready for your stuff, but it's also pitched the right way. You know, tell them the hard stuff. Do a test area. See where the water runs. Look at the pitch. And then obviously the other one that we're seeing a lot is the outdoor fireplace, fire pits, pizza ovens becoming increasingly popular, smokers and slow cookers even. But those places where you can go outside, make something, sit by it, relax. Again, that indoor-outdoor living space. It was actually in a 2021 design trends report by the National Kitchen and Bath Association. They found that 60% of homeowners are looking to add outdoor kitchens. I would be one of that 60%. All right. So you're just seeing it more and more. They call it the satellite kitchen. So a lot of these are actually right off the existing kitchen. So it's just, again, an extension of the house. So if you have nice weather, you're entertaining, it's just a nice way to get outside. And again, you can see here the unlimited tile opportunities. You know, gone are the days where tile was maybe only for a little patio or something like that. We're able to bring it in more places than we ever have been able to before. And just another example of that satellite kitchen. You know, extending off the house, you can see a beautiful fireplace here, kitchen, sitting area, ceiling fan, you name it. So the opportunities are limitless. Rooftop dining and lounging. This is another big one. This is a commercial application, but this is certainly gaining popularity in the residential world as well. Especially you look at cities and stuff like that now. Again, the COVID effect is no secret on the real estate prices as well, right? So it seems like everyone is upgrading. Everyone's trying to add on. Everyone, you name it, is trying to increase the value of their property. This is another great way to do that. In cities, a lot of times you can't expand out. You know, there's codes on that, so you can only go up. So this is what a better way to finish off the top of that, you know, that addition or that building by doing a rooftop lounger tech. Okay. And again, I don't want to, not trying to give you a full lesson on what you need to do, but when you're doing that, make sure again that you're using the proper installation techniques, right? You're going to want to have a primary waterproofing membrane. You're not going to rely on a, you know, just a tile waterproofing to do the waterproofing tray on a roof. It's still a roof. So don't forget that, right? You're going to want to make sure that you follow proper standards. If there is a drain, that it's pitched to it correctly. Again, that everything is running away from the building, and that you followed all your measures as a tile installer that you can to make a successful install. The GPTP, right? The larger format tiles gaining increasingly popular. Was more an internal commercial thing, certainly going more outside now. So this is not uncommon to see much bigger format tiles on an outside residence. And I have to announce this. The good thing about this, and where you're going to see it even more exterior, is the 2021 IBC exterior adhered porcelain tile building code updates. All right, which will now allow for larger module size exterior adhered porcelain tile veneer finishes, which is going to allow these designers, you know, architectural professionals, building professionals, to not have to see code variances when specifying these large size tiles exterior anymore, which is going to be, you know, opening the door even more for those GPTPs or the more large format porcelain tiles that we're seeing. So the design trends are able to go outside now. So everything's kind of catching up with each other. As with anything, you know, these take a little time to get up to speed. So you're always going to want to refer to local, you know, building code first, because sometimes these don't get enacted for years, depending where you are. But again, it's here. So, you know, certainly they want to go by the most recent code. So as long as you know about it, you could bring it to their attention and then hopefully get this stuff on the job if it's ever required or desired. And I can't ignore the fact that this is, you know, largely due to the improvements, not only in the manufacturing of the porcelain tiles, right? We're able to get those bigger and thinner than ever before, but also the improvements of the materials setting them as well. You know, those 118.15 setting materials. We're able to do stuff nowadays with these materials by how advanced and how modified they are than we ever have before. Like I've already shown you, you know, we could do submerge, we can do large tiles high up a building. So the advancements in technology and manufacturing have really come a long way. And I think, you know, the opportunities for our industry are better now than ever before. Other design trends, we're seeing, you know, not even take it outside of the thin porcelain, thick porcelain is actually coming back and becoming more popular outside. These are things you can loose lay, very durable, very, you know, nice design elements, something you could actually just spruce up a garden with or something like that. Just an easy way to, you know, put it in a walkway, a veranda, you name it, and just give a nice design element outside of the building. So it doesn't always have to be directed here. Just keep that in mind. You might be able to extend a job with, say, a pathway or a walkway that's porcelain. And then I really touched on it a little bit, but I'll get into a little more. The main thing I want to focus on, you know, always on exterior installs is, again, those best practices, right? Know what they are, know your resources, know about and have the TCNA handbook and the ANSI standards. These are tried and true methods, right? They're not just here because we think it's the right thing to do. You know, there's, you name it, studies, buildings, all the list can go on and on that support the need for these, you know, industry standards. So know them, follow them, and use them as a resource, okay? Not only to make sure that you're doing the right install, but as a leverage point too, when maybe you have, you know, we've all been there, the designer, someone's pushing you to do something that you don't think is right, punt back to this, you know, be like, look, this is out of standard. So any manufacturer, you name it, is gonna always refer to these. So just make sure that you're using those to your advantage. Big point of this is selection of finishes and installation methods, right? So again, know those ANSI standards, whether the 108s or the 118s, depending on whether it's the install method or the material, with the focus on exteriors here. Again, the big thing, go to the tile manufacturer. You might find a beautiful tile that has no shot of being installed outside. So make sure that it is recommended and suitable for the climatic conditions of the locality, okay? You're typically gonna be looking for those impervious or beacher types, depending on the, you know, the climate and seasonal conditions. Also know the exposure classifications, right? Going outside, you're going to be looking at that 6-7 area, right? You're going to want that exterior If you're going in a pool, it's got to be able to be submerged. So not just the material, but the install method as well. Make sure you're using the right material, something that can be submerged, okay? Last thing you want to do is buy a natural stone or something that maybe you get on the cheap. It looks really nice, but you put it in and it starts curling, okay? So not only make sure you're using the right material, but like I said, again, the right material, the right finishes, but the right installation materials as well. Sometimes, those concrete tiles are getting more popular. You might have to use a rapid set or an epoxy when you're going outside. Again, just by the nature of the product. It's not that the product is bad, it's just that it's not able to handle the environment that you're throwing at it. You can imagine, again, you'll have days here right now where you're 90 during the day and it's dropping to 60 at night. You can imagine what stresses that's putting on a natural stone. And with that said, movement joints, right? You figure tile and stone versus building movement, okay? If you ever tried to bend tile or stone, it doesn't really bend well. It's gonna break, right? But every building is made to move. So you gotta worry about thermal expansion, live and dead loads, creep and shrinkage, outside especially wind and seismic movement, right? I believe it was in Chile, they had an earthquake in 2010. I think Santiago, the city itself, moved 11 inches to the west. And I think Concepcion moved almost 10 feet to the west. So think about the seismic movement that you're putting there. So these are the reasons you got to worry about these expansion joints and movement joints. And also make sure that the joint spacing and the dimension can handle that movement, right? It's good to maybe put a couple of saw cut joints here and there, but are you really doing anything? So you actually have to make sure that this is all in tune, the engineering is there behind it, and you're doing the right thing. Like I showed that pool before, if it has to be every 8 feet, it has to be every 8 feet. So know that as the installer, not only for you, but also for the end user, saying, hey, you're gonna probably have a soft joint every 8 feet, or you name it. So again, just know the best practices. I usually like to show this one, what that means. You're gonna want that at every perimeter joint. Outside especially, you're gonna want that at every exterior outside corner. Floor to walls, you name it. Like in that pool, you're gonna have it at any, scupper or, anything. Any pipe penetration, light penetration, you're gonna want a soft joint. The last thing like you wanna see over here is that floor popping or peaking or tenting. So again, just follow the practices. A lot of people want that seamless look, but sometimes you might have to put a joint here or there. And because of this, because of the limitless conditions in structural systems, the architect or designer shall show locations and details of movement joints on project drawings. I say this because, a lot of times as a tile installer, you show up to the job and that's already foregone, right? They want that seamless floor. You show up and you start telling them, hey, look, I got to start doing joints here and there. They don't want to hear it. Again, just know the standards, know that EJ 171, use it to your advantage, okay? Not only for successful installs, but happy customers. And less callbacks, right? Certainly movement joints is a big part of it, but I also, can't ignore, especially outside on vertical surfaces, don't ignore the L/600, that deflection limit. Last thing you want to do is put something in and have tiles or stones start popping off the building. You don't want to have a guest get their head knocked by a tile. So just be aware again of all the elements that you have to worry about. Another big one I always bring up when talking about exterior installs is going to be, protection, tenting, you name it, or in the cold weather, tenting and heating, okay? I always tell people to worry about that 18-degree rule, which is essentially for every 18 degrees above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which, let me get off track here, is where pretty much any manufacturer is going to test their stuff, right? It's going to be at that 70-degree range. So everything is well and good and perfect at 70, but a lot of people don't realize that. So again, they'll read the bag saying, oh, well, it says it's going to be dry in 2 hours. I'm going to start grouting, when they don't realize that it might kick off a lot sooner than that if it's hot. So for every 18 degrees above that 70, the Portland cement or epoxy-based materials are going to take half as long to cure. Or if it makes more sense, they're going to cure twice as fast. So you imagine if you got a 90-degree day, that's even higher than that, right? So you might have something that kicks off in 45 minutes, kicking off in 18, 20 minutes. So I always tell people, keep that stuff inside in a cool temperature before you use it, even your mixing water. Make sure you know what you're getting into before you start installing, all right? And the same could be said in the cold end. That goes the other way. So for every 18 below that 70, it's going to take twice as long, right? So same thing. You don't want to just assume that it's ready the next day when you come back and that tile isn't cured yet. You start grouting it, and then 2 weeks from now, it starts falling off the building. So just know that rule. It's a very, very simple one to follow. And again, just worry about protection when you do see it getting higher. Another big one, exterior, I always bring up is surface preparation, cleaning of those surfaces, right? A lot of times they're going to try to spruce up an existing concrete, patio or something like that, or sidewalk, and they want you to come do it. You get out there and it looks great, looks clean, but a lot of that stuff has been sitting there for months, years, you name it. It has maybe de-icing salts, it has sealers on it, the invisible bond breaker. So I always tell people, make sure you clean it well. I always recommend, if outside, ideally you could high pressure wash it. That's going to be the easiest. If you have to get into the higher stuff, maybe bead blasting, shot blasting. But the main reason I show this slide is no acids, right? You don't want to rely on chemicals, because all that's really going to do, it may clean it for you, but that's going to soak back into that porous surface. And again, you're looking at an invisible bond breaker. All right, so just make sure that they're clean, sound, and solid every time you get into it. And that doesn't just go for existing surfaces. You figure if you're doing a new concrete wall or something like that, there might be, release agents, form release agents and stuff like that. And then again, that invisible bond breaker. So always know what you're getting over, all right? And then I would be not doing myself a service if I didn't get into setting materials and industry trends as well, right? So materials that are being used in these environments. And again, you can see where these will kind of tie into that 70-degree rule or the 18-degree rule. All right, so it's definitely a trend in the industry. Work faster, right? Rapid adhesives. That rapid word has become cliche almost in our industry, right? But it is definitely a needed and wanted commodity in the industry. Now more than ever, we're able to actually engineer these spaces as an installer. So before we were kind of relying on the dry times. Now we can give end users, builders, architects an option. Like, hey, look, we can do this in 3 days, 4 days, or I can use a rapid setting system, maybe be out of here in a day, day and a half. So if it makes sense for the project and the schedule, certainly use it to your advantage. We have adhesives that, you're able to grout in as little as 2 hours now versus 24 or even more in years prior. Mortar beds. There's mortar beds out there that are rapid setting that dry as soon as 1 hour. So again, those sometimes took 72 hours at least in the past, especially in an outside install. Waterproofing. You have some that are ready for tile in as little as 60 minutes versus, 12, 24, or even more. And then grouts as well. It doesn't stop at, the setting materials, the grouts. Now we have 3-hour dries, epoxy grouts, 6 hours. So the ability to move these schedules faster is, available now more than ever before. Lightweight adhesives and mortars, another big one. All right. So now what we're seeing in the industry is we're getting the same coverage with half the weight. Okay. So not only is this easier, obviously, for the installer, loading the job, carrying it, and stuff like that. It's also easier to transport, easier to stage because you're taking up less space. Same coverage, half the weight. That's half the space that you need to actually stage on the job. And not only that, it's easier to work with. So you're looking at products that have no silica, making that, we'll hear that in the industry a lot, that creamier, smoother finish. So it's not just easier for carrying and installing, it's easier on many levels. Freight has been, a bane of our existence in this industry lately. So, that lightweight story is a real thing there. So just think about all that stuff. It's not always just working safer on the weight, it's working safer in many other ways. And we're seeing this also in the form of multifunctional product advantages, right? So not only do we have ones that are faster and safer, we have ones that are able to do multiple tasks. We have waterproofings that are also anti-fracture. So again, you're just eliminating steps, right? So now we're able to work safer, faster, and increase output. Again, the sky is the limit for this industry, right? We have better performing materials that dry faster than ever before, are safer than ever before. We're able to, like I said, we're able to actually be engineers on these projects, increasing output just by our products alone and keeping up with that industry trend, right? Everything wants to be faster now. That's just the way our world is. We want instant gratification. So we're actually, this industry is definitely catching up to that as well. Other trends we're seeing, grout color certainly is a big one. You consider, outside, it used to be just gray, sand, cement mix, throw it in the joints, keep it solid, have it perform well and be rigid. The design elements are actually bigger than ever now in this category as well. Grout is becoming a part of the design. It's becoming as important as paint. We have companies that you can get any color of grout, literally any color. Pick a Pantone color and you can get that duplicated for a very affordable price. You want to call it that glitter grout, or you name it, the dazzle, those glow elements. So again, grout isn't just something to fill the joints, it's actually keeping up with the design trends. Glass tile, those larger format tiles are more beautiful than ever. So why not have the grout actually fall in line with that? And then naturally, the sustainability in the products that we are seeing in our industry, LEED, green, Lifecycle, you name it, the LBC, the red list stuff, everyone is getting up to these standards. And if they aren't, they should be. So when you use products, keep that environmental aspect in mind as well, right? Green Guard's a big one. HPDs, EPDs, before it was just everyone relied on the SDSs. Hold that company accountable, right? Make sure that they have the HPDs and EPDs behind their products, not only to walk the walk, but talk the talk, all right? And again, that building life cycle is a real story. Whether it's ease of maintenance, ease of install, you name it, it's all coming together now. And then locally made is obviously always a big one as well. So we're also, again, working safer, just not in the weight of the product or something like that, the actual environmental aspects of what that product provides. And then I would not be doing an exterior tile presentation if I didn't talk about efflorescence, right? So I always have to bring this one up doing exterior stuff. I just want to point it out because, this is a troublesome spot. A lot of times, installers will do a beautiful tile install. It looks great for the first summer. And then the homeowner comes out next year and I don't like it. And then who do they start pointing the finger at? They start pointing at the installer. And then that starts going down the line to the manufacturer. And then it becomes, well, your tile failed, it has efflorescence. You name it. Your thin set failed, it has efflorescence. I just always point this one out, okay? This is not a product defect, all right? This is a natural occurrence, all right? And what it is, it's the white crystalline deposits, which are composed of salts, lime, and or other soluble minerals. They're gonna come from the ground generally. Sometimes they will come in, a manufactured product where the cement or alkali substances exist, okay? And what they do is they typically travel to the surface using water as their vehicle, right? And then the exposure to carbon dioxide changes those deposits chemically, which leaves behind that white residue or the salt or the efflorescence or whatever people would call it. But again, the main thing, it's a natural occurrence, not a product or install failure. But there is ways that we can try to minimize this too, right? Big one is going to be knowing about it, okay? Knowing that it's not a product failure. So we do actually have a lot of installers that maybe haven't done a lot of outside stuff, and they get panicked when they get this call. They don't know what to do. They're talking about ripping the whole job up, okay? A lot of times it's just a part of routine maintenance on an exterior install. And then other times you actually can minimize it or mask it using epoxies or those highly polymer modified adhesives and grouts. Some even have actually gone, if they're really trying to minimize it, they'll use moisture mitigation products outside on the premise that they don't want those vapors pushing up. Sealers too, right? Use the right sealers. There's even saltwater resistant sealers now. So just make the homeowner aware of it before you put it in. Or if it does come up, be like, I would start the conversation right away, point them in the right direction about efflorescence and the actual science behind it, okay? Just letting them know, hey, I don't have to rip out your entire patio. It might be just a matter of giving a routine maintenance schedule or something like that. And then always, I always preach about the benefits of certified labor, okay? I don't want to say certified, that's a risky word, use advanced skilled labor, okay? I think that's a good way to call it in the industry. Use the people or become the person that is actually going out and getting trained in this stuff, okay? It's very easy to get a outside job, get sucked into that job. Someone wants 5,000 feet down on their patio. Maybe you're a smaller tile guy and the price tag is amazing. I got a $40,000 opportunity looking in front of me, but you've never done it before, okay? Again, the last thing you want to do is have to come back and fix a mistake, all right? So learn the right methods, go to these trainings, the NTCA and other industry partners certainly do these. Take advantage of these, right? It's not just going to be something you can put on your resume or on your website. It's actually going to help you on the job. And that's really it, guys. I kind of burn through that. I get the nervous going fast, but that is essentially, the nuts and bolts of the presentation. Thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. And certainly if you have any questions, I will be sticking around.
Marcel, great job. You've got a great voice for presenting these webinars and presentations. That's fantastic. I do want to speak for the NTCA and our trainers, and they put a couple messages on here and how they appreciate the comments on the importance of selection of the correct setting materials, observing proper cure times, especially in submerged areas. And they want to make sure everybody knows that NTCA has what we call our regional trainings, and they're day-long trainings for large format tile and gauge porcelain tile standards, substrate prep. So they're out there. There's a lot of ways people can learn and get this, but the information was amazing. I can't thank you enough. I think people are, with this COVID situation we've been going through, and hopefully we're getting out of, people have started to utilize their outdoor areas a lot more and enjoy at-home get-togethers and stuff. So it's fantastic. I do have a question here for you real quickly, Marcel. Chlorine versus salt pool waters, cautions. Are there any advice or little tips you want to give people on those?
To be honest, so in my, and I certainly step in, Jim, if you have more. In my experience inside the pool, not really, right? If you have metals and stuff, I have seen it become a problem. Those actually do tend to erode. But from my understanding, the salt water still acts almost similar to the chlorine, right? Where we do see it a lot of time is those saltwater resistant sealers on the pool deck and stuff like that. People are starting to use those a little more. But that fear with saltwater pools eroding or eating away at it, as long as they're properly maintained, it's really not, a problem any more than any other setting material. The cement stuff and all that can actually handle it. Yeah.
Great. Does Laticrete have install methods booklet for pools and spas, anything like that?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, it's kind of tough to navigate, but if you find it, so it's technical design manuals. So if you look in there, and I'm doing this by memory, it's going to be Solution Center. And then in there, that's going to be one of the options. So technical design manuals. And I don't know if that one's published yet. That should be out any day now. If you need an older version, we could certainly get to it. And then we also have TDSs, technical data sheets, which are literally everything from the types of pool plasters to you name it, how to waterproof it. We even have maintenance checklists. So yeah, we have anything pool related, we have it for sure.
So if anyone out there is interested and you'd like to send something to me asking for this, I can forward it to Marcel, and Marcel can get it to you. Again, my email address is very simple. I'm going to put it on the chat screen right now and answer to all, but it's jim@tile-assn.com. So we'll get that for you. So definitely, that's great to know. You mentioned that not to use a membrane or for WATERLINE install. Hydrobrand cementitious waterproofing can handle this. Is that correct?
It can handle the negative pressure. So that one might not be a problem. My concern always is just adding layers to the cake when you don't need to, I guess. Even if it's just install error or something like that, you name it. So, again, just know what you're getting into before you do it. If you don't need it there, if it's not really waterproofing anything, I don't see any, by all means, put it up if you want. But,
so
if it gets to...
We can tell Marcel's not the sales rep. He's not trying to sell you any extra products. So he's giving you the correct technical information, and that's what we want. Thank you. That's great.
We'll edit that out, right?
Yeah, no, we'll leave that in there. Here's another one. If this person was to install racing lane pool tile on a shotcrete pool, would they need membrane under just the racing lane tile, or would it need to be everywhere?
Well, so yeah, no, I would say on something like that, you'd still want the pool waterproofing in place, right? Yeah. Yep.
I agree. All right. I don't quite know this. They're just saying steam baths ? I don't know what they mean by steam baths. So yeah. Steam rooms, maybe?
Steam rooms, yep. So, I mean, a lot of times I tell people treat those just like a swimming pool, but the main thing is the membrane, right? You want to make sure that that's not vapor permeable. A lot of waterproofing membranes, even our Hydroban, for example, up until recently, those wouldn't stop that real perm, that steam perm. So just make sure that whatever you're putting in there can handle that.
All right. So one of our installers said, is this in a commercial area or something? So Randy, can you resend that question and be more detailed, please? All right, here's one. Is there a code for these steam rooms? I guess that's what they're asking, steam showers?
Steam shower, yeah, I mean, yeah, yes. There's certainly got to be.
Definitely are.
Whether it's
definitely.
whether it's IAMO stuff or you name it, even, you know, like I said, the handbooks and all those industry standards, there's going to be not only code, but there's going, and that's a good question actually, because it always, when you're doing steam, anything like that, I would even do showers, anything like that, always refer to code, right? There's still areas that are probably telling you to do hot mop in certain places, you know? So you got to know what you're getting with, always. And that's the thing too, I always tell people refer to local code, right? You could say, well, look, I have this book that says this, but if the inspector shows up, your book doesn't mean anything. You know? So always refer to local codes.
That's very good, Marcel. So local codes, remember that. Local codes are very important. ANSI is very important. TCA handbooks are very important. And then one thing people forget is manufacturers' recommendations supersede all other, TCA handbook and everything. Make sure you follow the manufacturer's guidelines. They're the ones that are going to back this for you. So, make sure you follow that. Yeah,
and that's a good point. You know, when you get into those very technical ones, rely on that manufacturer, whether it's, like you said, the warranties, their written installation instructions, and even local support. You know, when you get into a very hairy install, I would try to get as many people to bat for you as you could, you know?
Right. So here, this goes right along with what we were just saying, and one of our attendees is saying, per TCA handbook, I was under the impression we need to have a crack isolation membrane. Has this been updated, or is Laticrete recommending to use it per their approved methods?
Did it say application where? I mean,
Kevin, can you tell me where, Kevin? WATERLINE.
WATERLINE?
Yeah.
As long as I could be wrong, as long as you have the proper expansion joints and stuff like that, the crack isolation is not needed. And I could be wrong.
So this is what we'll do. I guess I don't want to leave that open-ended. Kevin, why don't you send me that question? I'll forward it to Marcel, and we will get the answer for you for sure. Okay, Kevin Ford, send it to me. Again, it's Jim at tile-ASSN.com, Tile Association. I'll make sure Marcel gets that. Kevin said thank you, by the way. So, all right, well, I guess that's everything we have today for questions. We've got quite a few people saying thanks. Great presentation, lots of information.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank everyone for attending. Our next webinar will be, I believe, right after TICE next week. Surfaces on the, I don't even know what day, but it will be later this week, later this month, and invites will be going out. We hope to see all of you and here with us. Thank you again, Marcel. Thanks to everybody for taking the time to be here. It really means a lot. So we'll see you. Have a great weekend. I hope to see a lot of you. I hope to see a lot of you at Surfaces next week in Vegas. All right. I don't really want to go, but I'll be there. So we'll see you all. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you.